You can spot a high-value woman the moment she walks into a room. Not because of what she's wearing, not because of how she looks, but because of the calm, unshakable energy she carries. She doesn't chase attention, she attracts it. She doesn't beg for love, she chooses it. While most people are reacting to life, she's responding with clarity. The difference, it's how she thinks. A high-value woman's power isn't in her beauty, her status, or her words. It's in her mindset. She moves differently because she sees differently. A high-value woman understands that her peace is her power. That simple truth shapes everything about how she moves through life. She doesn't allow her emotions or other people's behavior to dictate her inner state. You can't easily shake her because her stability doesn't come from the world around her. It comes from the world within her. When someone disrespects her, she doesn't chase an apology. When life tests her patience, she doesn't lose control. Her first instinct isn't to react, it's to observe, because she knows that not everything deserves her energy, not every situation requires a response, and not everyone deserves access to her emotions. She's mastered the pause. That moment between what happens to her and how she chooses to respond. That's where her strength lies. Most people react immediately, driven by ego, anger, or insecurity. But she takes a breath, steps back, and thinks. She asks herself, is this worth my peace? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Because peace isn't something she talks about, it's something she protects. She's learned through pain and experience that peace doesn't come from control, it comes from acceptance. Acceptance of what she can't change and confidence in what she can. Her confidence isn't loud or showy, it's grounded. It's not about proving a point. It's about staying aligned with her values. She doesn't need to convince anyone that she's valuable because she knows she is. That knowledge changes everything. It's the reason she doesn't argue with disrespect. It's the reason she walks away from people who drain her. It's the reason she doesn't try to please everyone. She knows that her worth isn't dependent on anyone's validation. And because of that, her peace can't be stolen by someone's opinion. When someone tries to trigger her, she doesn't fight back with words. She responds with silence. Not out of weakness, but out of control. Because silence is not emptiness, it's strategy. It's her way of saying, you don't get to control how I feel. She understands that attention is energy, and where she places it determines what grows in her life. So she invests her attention wisely. She gives it to her purpose, her dreams, her growth, not to negativity, gossip, or drama. A high-value woman knows that self-control is self-respect. The more she controls her reactions, the more power she has. Because the truth is, power isn't about domination or pride, it's about emotional discipline. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can lose their temper. But staying calm when everything around you is chaotic, that's real strength, that's emotional intelligence. And she's mastered it. She's not emotionless, she's emotionally aware. She feels deeply, but she doesn't let those feelings dictate her decisions. When she's hurt, she doesn't seek revenge, she seeks understanding. When she's disappointed, she doesn't collapse, she learns. She's not focused on proving her worth, she's focused on maintaining her peace. That's why she attracts different kinds of people. People who respect her energy, people who admire her calm, people who notice the quiet confidence she carries. She's learned that protecting her peace sometimes means disappointing others, saying no when she used to say yes, walking away from conversations that lead nowhere, choosing solitude over forced connections. She doesn't chase closure because she's learned how to create it for herself. She doesn't need to be understood by everyone because she's finally understood herself. That's liberation. Her boundaries are firm, not because she's cold, but because she's healed. She's been through the cycle of giving too much, caring too deeply, and expecting people to treat her the way she treats them. And she's learned that peace requires distance from those who constantly disturb it. That's why her energy feels rare, because it's protected. She's not accessible to everyone anymore, and that's not arrogance, it's wisdom. She knows that not everyone deserves to experience her softness, her loyalty, her care. Those are earned, not given freely. When people misunderstand her silence, she doesn't explain it. She knows that those who truly see her won't need an explanation. When others accuse her of being too calm, she smiles because she knows that peace is misunderstood in a world addicted to chaos. When others expect her to react, she simply doesn't because she's not playing the same emotional game anymore. A high-value woman doesn't waste time trying to control what people think of her. She knows that perception is projection. People see you based on who they are, not who you are. So she stops taking things personally. When someone tries to project insecurity onto her, she doesn't internalize it. When someone tries to manipulate her emotions, she recognizes it. She knows her triggers, and she guards them carefully. Her strength isn't in being unbreakable, it's in being unbothered. There's a difference. Being unbreakable means resisting everything. Being hard, being closed off. But being unbothered means choosing peace over reaction. It means being aware of everything, but responding to nothing that doesn't serve her growth. That's the mindset that keeps her centered in a world that tries to pull her in every direction. She lives by one principle. If it costs my peace, it's too expensive. She applies it to everything: relationships, work, friendships, even family, because she's learned that peace is not something you find, it's something you create. And creating peace means removing anything that constantly disturbs it. It's not selfish, it's survival. Her emotional stability doesn't mean she never feels angry, hurt, or sad. It means she's learned how to manage those emotions instead of letting them manage her. She feels everything, but she processes it privately. She doesn't post her pain, she heals it. She doesn't broadcast her battles, she conquers them quietly. Her calm isn't fake, it's earned. She knows her energy is magnetic, but she doesn't use it to manipulate. She uses it to inspire. She understands that how she carries herself teaches people how to treat her. When she respects herself, others follow. When she chooses calm over chaos, her life aligns with that same energy. She becomes a mirror of peace, and peace becomes her default state. A high-value woman understands that her power is not in being liked, it's in being respected. And respect begins when she respects herself enough to stop explaining, stop chasing, and stop reacting. Her peace is her priority, her boundaries are her protection, her silence is her strength. And because she lives this way, she doesn't attract confusion anymore. She attracts clarity. She doesn't attract people who drain her. She attracts people who match her peace. That's the beauty of emotional maturity. The more grounded she becomes, the more aligned her world becomes. She's not the loudest in the room, but she's the one everyone notices. Not because she's trying to be seen, but because she carries something rare, self-control in a world that glorifies reaction. She's proof that peace isn't weakness, it's the highest form of power. A high-value woman doesn't think in terms of competition. She thinks in terms of alignment. She's not comparing, she's creating. She's not chasing, she's becoming. Her focus isn't on who's winning around her, it's on whether she's winning within herself. Because she understands something that most people never figure out: comparison is the enemy of peace. Every time you compare, you rob yourself of gratitude. You forget how far you've come and you start measuring your worth against someone else's timeline. But she doesn't fall into that trap. Her mindset is rooted in self-awareness, not external validation. She doesn't care who's ahead of her because she knows that what's for her will never pass her by. She moves with quiet confidence, not desperate urgency. She's not rushing her growth to match someone else's highlight reel. She understands that everyone's journey is different, and speed doesn't determine success. Consistency does. While others want instant results, she's focused on long-term progress. She knows that small steps done daily create massive change over time. She's patient because she's not living to impress, she's living to evolve. And that patience gives her peace. When she scrolls through social media, she doesn't feel threatened by another woman's success. She feels inspired. She celebrates others because she's not operating from scarcity, she's operating from abundance. She believes that someone else's light doesn't dim hers. She knows there's enough room for everyone to shine. And that mindset alone separates her from the majority, because jealousy can't live where self-awareness thrives. A high-value woman doesn't seek validation from the outside world. She validates herself through action, purpose, and discipline. She's not waiting for applause, she's focused on impact. When no one's watching, she's still putting in the work. Because her standard isn't built on attention, it's built on integrity. She knows that real growth happens in silence, when no one is cheering, when no one is praising. She's driven by something internal, the need to fulfill her potential, not impress an audience. She doesn't chase opportunities, she attracts them by becoming the kind of person who deserves them. That's the key difference in how she thinks. Most people run after what they want. She focuses on becoming what she wants naturally aligns with. She knows that energy attracts energy. So she invests in her habits, her mindset, and her values until her reality starts to reflect her growth. When things don't go her way, she doesn't spiral. She doesn't say, "Why me?" She says, "What is this teaching me?" That's her advantage. She turns pain into perspective. She understands that every setback carries a lesson and every delay has a purpose. When she's rejected, she doesn't chase what rejected her. She reflects, learns, and redirects. She doesn't see failure as an end, it's feedback. Feedback about what needs to change, improve, or evolve. A high-value woman doesn't play the victim, she plays the visionary. She's not focused on what's missing, she's focused on what's possible. Her thoughts aren't consumed with resentment or envy, they're filled with gratitude and goals. Because she knows that mindset shapes reality. Whatever you feed your mind eventually becomes your world. So she feeds hers with belief, discipline, and peace. She's aware that her energy is her greatest investment. That's why she doesn't waste it on drama, gossip, or competition. She knows that where focus goes, energy flows. And her focus is always on bettering herself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. She's constantly asking, how can I grow from this? What's the lesson here? Because she understands that self-mastery is the foundation of every kind of success. She doesn't compete with other women because she's too busy collaborating with her future self. Every morning, she's becoming a better version of who she was yesterday. She doesn't look left or right. She looks forward. She's not comparing timelines, relationships, or achievements. She's comparing mindsets, hers today versus hers last year. That's her scoreboard. progress, not perfection. And because of that, she's not easily intimidated. You can't make her feel small by flaunting what you have, because she's not impressed by surface level things. She values depth over display, quality over quantity, alignment over attention. Her definition of success isn't based on what she owns. It's based on who she's becoming. She's not chasing fame, she's chasing peace. Not applause, but purpose. When the world tells her to compete, she chooses to connect. When the world tells her to prove herself, she chooses to improve herself. She's learned that trying to outshine others only drains her energy. But shining authentically creates light that never burns out. That's why she doesn't copy anyone. She doesn't imitate trends or chase popularity. Her power lies in her authenticity. She knows that staying true to herself will always attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right timing. She's also deeply self-aware. She knows her strengths, but she also knows her weaknesses, and she works on both. She doesn't pretend to be perfect. She's honest about where she's growing, and that honesty makes her powerful. Because pretending consumes energy, authenticity builds it. She accepts herself fully, flaws included, because she understands that acceptance is the foundation of confidence. When she faces moments of doubt, she doesn't crumble. She reminds herself of how far she's come. She keeps a record of her progress, not her pain. She replaces "I'm not enough" with "I'm still growing." She's learned to separate her self-worth from her circumstances. Whether she's winning or learning, her value stays constant. She doesn't need external validation to feel fulfilled, because fulfillment comes from within. A high-value woman knows that real success is internal first. It's peace of mind, clarity of purpose, and emotional balance. It's waking up and liking who she's becoming. That's the kind of success no one can take from her. It's not about followers, money, or status. It's about alignment. Being in tune with her values, her vision, and her growth. She's strategic about who she keeps around her. She surrounds herself with people who feed her ambition, not her insecurities. She knows that environment shapes mindset. If she spends time with people who gossip, she'll start thinking small. If she spends time with people who grow, she'll start thinking big. So she chooses her circle intentionally. Those who challenge her, support her, and remind her of her worth when she forgets. She knows that true confidence doesn't come from being better than others. It comes from mastering yourself. That's why she's calm in the presence of success, humble in the face of praise, and graceful in the midst of challenges. She's not reactive, she's responsive, because her identity isn't fragile, it's founded. At her core, a high-value woman is guided by one mindset. What's meant for me will find me when I'm ready for it. That's why she's not in a rush. She trusts timing, not pressure. She moves with faith, not fear. She understands that her only real job is to stay in alignment, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The rest will unfold naturally. She knows that growth takes time, but peace takes intention, and she's mastered both. So while others compete for validation, she quietly builds her empire brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. Because in her world, alignment will always matter more than competition. A high-value woman thinks long-term. She doesn't let temporary emotions decide permanent outcomes. She's learned that not everything deserves an immediate reaction, and not every situation needs to be solved right now. When things go wrong, she doesn't fall apart, she steps back. She zooms out, observes the bigger picture, and asks herself one question: will this still matter in a year? That simple thought protects her from impulsive decisions and emotional mistakes. She's grounded, not because her life is perfect, but because her perspective is. She knows that emotions are like waves. They rise, they fall, and they pass. But if you let them control you, they'll pull you under. So she feels deeply but responds wisely. She allows herself to process emotions privately, not publicly. She doesn't post her pain because she's not looking for sympathy. She's focused on healing. She knows that calmness in chaos is not something you're born with. It's something you build. And she's built it through patience, discipline, and awareness. When she faces disappointment, she doesn't see it as punishment. She sees it as redirection. She knows that every closed door was protection in disguise. That rejection from a person, that delay in a goal, that failure that hurt her pride, all of it was working for her, not against her. Because she understands something most people don't. Life's timing is precise. You may not always get what you want when you want it, but you'll always get what you need when you're ready for it. A high-value woman doesn't try to control everything. She controls herself, her emotions, her reactions, her words. That's where her power lies. She knows that true control has nothing to do with others. It's all about mastering her inner world. She doesn't let temporary frustration destroy long-term progress. When something bothers her, she doesn't respond out of impulse. She responds out of intention. That's why her words carry weight, because they're chosen, not thrown. She's learned that discipline is a form of self-respect. It's not about forcing herself, it's about honoring her goals. She keeps her promises to herself even when no one's watching. When she says she's going to do something, she does it. Because consistency builds trust, and that trust starts within. She knows that motivation is temporary, but discipline is permanent. So she doesn't rely on how she feels, she relies on what she values. That's how she stays focused even when life gets hard. Her routine may look simple, but it's sacred. The way she wakes up early, the way she takes care of her body, the way she keeps her environment calm. It's not for show. It's how she maintains alignment. She doesn't chase excitement. She builds stability because she knows that peace isn't found in chaos, it's found in order. Her discipline gives her freedom. She's not controlled by distractions, temptations, or emotions. She's in charge of herself, and that's the purest form of freedom there is. When things fall apart, she doesn't panic, she adapts. She knows that life won't always go as planned, and she's okay with that, because her trust isn't in plans, it's in preparation. She trusts herself to handle whatever comes. That's confidence on a deeper level, not arrogance, but quiet assurance. She doesn't need to control outcomes because she's already mastered her mindset. A high-value woman doesn't hold grudges, she holds lessons. She's been betrayed, misunderstood, and hurt. But she's not bitter. She's wiser. She doesn't carry anger in her heart because she knows it only poisons her peace. Forgiveness for her isn't about letting others off the hook. It's about setting herself free. She chooses to let go, not because they deserve it, but because she deserves peace. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Releasing what you can't change, learning from what you went through, and walking forward with grace. She's selective about who has access to her. Not everyone gets to know her thoughts, see her energy, or share her time. Her circle is small, not because she's arrogant, but because she's intentional. She surrounds herself with people who feed her mind, not her drama. People who challenge her growth, not her boundaries. Because she knows energy is contagious. If she spends time with chaos, chaos will grow inside her. If she spends time with peace, peace will multiply. When she's quiet, it's not because she has nothing to say. It's because she's listening, observing, understanding. She's learned that wisdom isn't in talking more. It's in talking less and noticing more. Her silence is her strength. She doesn't reveal everything she's thinking or planning because not everyone deserves access to her mind. Her mystery isn't a tactic, it's protection. She's emotionally intelligent enough to walk away without resentment. If someone leaves, she lets them go. If something ends, she lets it end. She doesn't chase closure because she knows that closure isn't something you get from others, it's something you create within yourself. She no longer asks, "Why did this happen to me?" She asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" That question shifts her from victim to creator, from hurt to healing. She's mastered the art of non-reactivity. When someone tries to trigger her, she doesn't match their energy, she maintains hers. That's not indifference, that's control. She understands that reacting gives away power, and she's worked too hard to hand her power to someone who doesn't value it. Instead, she keeps her composure and protects her peace like it's her most valuable possession, because it is. Her decisions are guided by purpose, not emotion. When she invests her time, she asks, "Does this align with who I want to become?" If it doesn't, she says no without guilt. She's not afraid to disappoint others if it means staying true to herself, because she knows that people who truly respect her won't be offended by her boundaries. They'll understand them. She no longer fears being misunderstood. She knows that not everyone will get her, and that's okay. She's not living for understanding, she's living for alignment. She doesn't chase relationships that drain her peace or environments that dull her growth. She's not afraid to walk alone because she knows that solitude is where strength is built. Her mind is her fortress. She fills it with gratitude, discipline, and vision. When doubt tries to whisper, she drowns it out with faith. She doesn't overthink what's beyond her control. She focuses on what's within her reach. Every thought she allows shapes her reality, so she guards her mind as carefully as her heart. A high-value woman knows that real strength isn't in fighting everything. It's in choosing what's worth fighting for. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every problem deserves attention. Sometimes the most powerful thing she can do is stay silent, stay focused, and keep moving forward. That's how she wins, not loudly, not dramatically, but gracefully. She's not unshakable because life hasn't tested her. She's unshakable because it has, and she learned to stand anyway. Every setback built her patience. Every disappointment built her wisdom. Every heartbreak built her strength. And now she carries all of that quietly, powerfully, intentionally. Her long-term vision keeps her steady. She's not here for temporary attention. She's here for lasting peace. She's not here to prove her value. She's here to live it. Every thought, every choice, every boundary is shaped by one truth. Her value is never up for debate. She doesn't chase what's fleeting. She builds what lasts. And that's why she moves differently, because she thinks differently. So when you see a high-value woman, understand this. Her peace wasn't handed to her, it was earned. Her calm wasn't natural, it was built through storms. Her strength didn't come from never breaking, but from learning how to rebuild herself every single time she did. She's proof that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to stay patient, to stay kind, to stay grounded when everything around you demands a reaction. Because a high-value woman doesn't move to prove herself. She moves with purpose. She doesn't chase attention. She commands respect. And above all, she doesn't just think differently. She lives differently.